Welcome back. We're back. Two fans. One Paul, myself, David Quist, lovely co-host KB Kirk Brown. Week 12 preview, KB. Crazy to say, as always, this far into the year. You know, some stuff to talk about. We'll get into in a minute with Michigan State. There's always something. KB, I know you have your thoughts, but let's throw it out to you in Phoenix, Arizona, see how we're doing, and jump right in.
Yeah, fighting off the last little bits of this cold. Been way better the last couple of days, but still a little sinus pressure, so that is annoying. But overall, excited for this football weekend. Both our teams are getting back to play, and some really good matchups. It sucks for all you YouTube TV people because there's a lot of good ESPN and ABC matchups, per usual. So I'm glad I'm going to be able to watch most of them. I am going out for my mother-in-law's birthday, as it's tomorrow, Friday, and we're doing a little dinner Saturday because Michigan's playing an early game, so I'll have to watch some replays of it. It's also my mother's birthday on the same day tomorrow, so if anyone sees Mama Brown, wish her a happy birthday. But outside of that, appreciate you guys and ready to listen.
Fun fact as well, KB, my birthday is the same as KB's brother's birthday. It's all connected. Okay, let's just dive in, KB. Michigan State's got some sanctions. Supposedly, and the 2022 to 2024 wins don't matter. Who cares? We're ass. We still suck. I don't know how many wins it is, 12 or something, I think
14.
You said. 14. So pretty much what they did is they paid 3 players and their parents and whoever else to get to Michigan, East Lansing, or flights and money, all that stuff. The old GM, who my coworker used to work with, who would say it's kind of a karma, not a great guy. Jordan was another coach, DNs, and obviously Mel Tucker kind of let it happen. And in my opinion, KB, what matters and probably why we cooperated, because cooperating with the Big Ten or cooperating with the NCAA really works out for you, is to get another reason or show cause to get that $75 million away from Mel Tucker, so we can keep that. Any other things that come with the sanctions, then we can talk more about it. 2 fewer home game official visits for 2025 and 1 less for the next 2 years. The loss of 12 weeks of unofficial visits with at least 1 week each year, including a home game. At least a total 6-week ban on recruiting communications through 2027. The loss of 30 total days of recruiting per person days through 20. Just another one. A week ban on off-campus recruiting. They also had a $30,000 fine and then 1.5% of their budget, which is like $57 million. My buddy thought there was a bowl ban, but I don't think that's in there. Just recruiting violations and then a little bit of cash to spend. And then those 3 guys that I talked about were the 3 culprits: the GM, the DN specialist coach, and then obviously Mel Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys left you pretty abruptly. The DN coach was only there for like 9 or 10 months right before he was left. And maybe this was the reason why, a background of that this was figured out, because I didn't even know that this investigation was going on. Weird how some investigations get leaked every single day of every single week, and others kind of ride underneath the radar until they come out. So there isn't any biasing in the media. How wild would that be? But no, I think it's pretty comical. We talk about how much of a joke the NCAA is, and this is just another instance of the NCAA being a joke, right? I don't know if these are bad sanctions or whatever have you, because I mean, we're paying people millions of dollars and we're getting fussy over it. Sounds like each player received 10,000 to visit. I've heard some people are receiving up to 50,000 people to visit, and all of it's probably getting reported, and the NCAA decides to punish MSU because they're kind of just little bitches to the NCAA in a lot of instances and just kind of roll over and die. In my opinion, I think this comes from you guys not having a president, right? You still don't have one, or it's been like turned over. I feel like you guys have been
guy from
over.
North Carolina.
Okay,
we did go through a lot though. In the last 5 to I would say 8 years maybe, we've gone through at least 3. But the guy now is pretty solid. He's from North Carolina, and then obviously he hired Bat from Georgia Tech.
Yeah, so, and I'm not talking shit about MSU as an institution. It's just really hard to have an identity or have like a strong focus point or control when you're replacing that many presidents that are, overseeing the full university, and then with the AD leaving. But anyway, I just find it funny that, one team in the state of Michigan got retracted, wins, and now there's 3 teams in the Big Ten. I'll let you guess the 2 others that have had vacated wins, and it isn't the team that I'm wearing. So
Ohio State.
It's really fun. Yep, and then a team a little further east.
Penn State?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think the funniest thing, KB, like you said, the NCAA is kind of a joke, and I know it's irrelevant to everything. But one of the vacated wins is the game where Connor Stallions was on the sideline for Central, which is just
hilarious.
You can't write it like. I don't.
It wasn't. And CMU didn't really get punished that much.
Not really, and then we had a statement this year too that was kind of like not that great.
Yeah.
I hope we don't play them again, honestly, because that's, in my opinion, falls on McElwain, then it falls on the AD, and then it's a slippery slope to taking that and having ownership of that, even though supposedly nobody knew. Whatever.
Obviously, no one knew. Like it was between the passing game
like his
coordinator.
buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, his buddy that coached at Michigan a few years, and I don't even know if the head coach knew. The head coach was probably like, "Hey, I have this guy that I know," and he's probably like, "Oh, it's probably didn't know that he was Michigan's current coach until probably they figured it out," because I think he left the game in like the third. Obviously, they were losing anyway, but no, it's just wild. I think these situations are funny, in the sense that there's just no. The NCAA just has a wand that it waves to make decisions on just about anything. I just saw something that a G League player is going to be playing in
Izzo was
college basketball. And like they just have no things. And I remember a couple years ago, a Virginia Tech recruit wanted to move somewhere. It was something where like a recruit was transferring and his mother was sick. And it was outside the zone by 5 miles of someone can be for like the sickness clause. And it's like that same organization is now letting someone who got paid professionally in the United States to play basketball to go be on. So like it doesn't matter. It's heavy, they don't have actually any guardrails. And I can't wait until we figure out a way around this. Hopefully all these sports that we win Olympics with don't get punished, because we have some really greedy fuckers on the college football and basketball side right now. But overall, the NCAA is a joke of an organization that doesn't protect athletes, it doesn't protect fans, it doesn't protect universities or students. They just try to whip out their.
Are they a nonprofit still?
Yeah, I mean.
Also, vacating.
There's a profit arm and a nonprofit arm of the NCAA. Okay.
Also, vacating wins. It's kind of pointless, in my opinion. The game was already played. Doesn't really change anything. Michigan. They won fair and square. Did they cheat? Did they have an advantage? Sure, fine. But if you vacate the national championship, it doesn't, I know that didn't happen, but if you do that, it doesn't matter. They played the game, they won the game. That's how I feel about it. So I think vacating wins is kind of pointless, KB, because it already happened. But that's just my opinion.
I agree. Vacating wins is not the right way to go. I think just recruiting punishments and impacting the university overall, I think financially is the new way to go. I think even recruitment, I don't think you should limit recruiting or anything like that. I know these were recruiting violations, so it's directly why. But like all those people are gone. It's not like the university got caught and then those guys are the coaches. I'd rather the university just receive a fine, because like that's impacting players that can
the
like
next
go
coach.
there. And it's not even the next coach. It's like the players. Like they have less time now to recruit local kids from Michigan. They now have less time to spend a kid that maybe wallows in D2 for the next 2 years, right? Like you're not going to have as much time now, and that just impacts the kids overall. So I'm not really in favor of anything like that. But I mean, then I think you just hope no one ever points the NCAA at you, because then the NCAA usually tries to make an example out of everyone if they have the power and you're willing to kind of roll over and allow it. Is kind of my take from the NCAA, because Tennessee had like 12 recruiting violations that were like all level 1. Like a dude literally handed a bag of cash to another person, and their punishments weren't that severe. So it's just funny.
The lesson of the day, KB, is when you work with the NCAA, they fuck you, and when you don't want to work with them, no problem, guys. We'll see you later. I mean, that's really. That's really it. And I do think it's because they want to get rid of Tucker. If they want to get rid of Tucker, I mean, that's probably the main thing. Get rid of the whole lawsuit and him paying him. That's probably why State was compliant here. But being compliant with NCAA at the end of the day does not help you.
Not really at all.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I mean, they can punish you individually, like Harbaugh, for example. He got punished severely for everything for not complying. But the university complying and individuals complying are two hugely separate issues, right? The same thing with Stallions. Like his show cause was simply for him not complying and kind of his blatant disregard for the rules. Because someone said it best, like if you're in the thing that Salian should have done to go all of this is like, hey, it isn't explicitly stated in the rules that you can't send people that aren't affiliated with Michigan tickets and free stuff to go film, which, guys, iPhone footage from row 50 is not the difference maker in these football games, as we saw down the stretch. But he should have asked, hey, is this in compliance to do this, to your compliance officer, right? That's the right way to go about things instead of being like, yeah, well, it isn't explicitly written, so I'll just assume it isn't so. And that's what the NCAA doesn't want you to do. If you have a question, if it isn't explicitly stated, you're supposed to go to your compliance officer, which is what they failed to do in that case, which is more so what the NCAA was fully like pissed about.
Got it. Fair enough. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. I think a lot of the NCAA in conferences can be a problem too, KB. I mean, having
the revenue funding thing that's coming through for the Big Ten that USC and Michigan are both boycotting.
And not having a top 5 hockey game on actual TV. Like, there's a lot of weird things that everybody's doing. I know hockey's not a big population, but you should push up the conference that has a really good, there's 4 teams in the top 10. Like, push that up. But that's just my opinion.
Petitti's a fucking moron, and we knew that when he banned Harbaugh in the middle of a flight without contacting him less than 24 hours before the Penn State game. Look, if you have a statement on if he should have been banned, I agree. You don't do it on the middle of his flight when he can't talk about it. Everyone arrives to learn that information less than 24 hours before the game. When you knew what was happening for over a week and a half. They knew this pre-Michigan State and waited until the last second to do it. He's a fucking clown. But
fair enough. Enough of that.
That's what happens when you let TV guys get into fucking powerful positions. They're fucking chachas.
The suits, you said it, KB. I would agree. Obviously, this will impact the team for the next 3 years. So if we get a new coach, they got to deal with this, which kind of sucks unless Smith somehow saves his job. But we'll see what happens. I'm curious who the 3 players were, just for my own sanity, I guess. It probably doesn't matter that much, but at the end of the day, it's really not their fault. Obviously, it falls on the coaches. Anything else, KB, before we jump into this week of games? We're good to go. First game is where game day is going to be. I don't have ABC right now, but I will be in East Lansing tailgating one last time. Notre Dame goes to Pitt. Both teams are 7-2. Noon kick on ABC. Current spread, KB, is 11 and at 12.5. Home dogs for Pitt. Notre Dame loves to run the shuttle ball with Jeremiah Love, and then I think their backup is Price or Prince. He's good too. CJ Carr's gotten better. The defense is okay, I think, at Notre Dame. I do like the fight out of this Pitt team. Narduzzi's his state guy. Tough, hard-nosed defense most of the time. I know the quarterback room has been rotating a lot. And Pitt always recruits decently well. I don't know a lot about the team per se, but they usually are tough and decent. I think 12.5 points at home is a lot, KB. I'm going to take the points. Why the fuck not? Give me Pitt. Give me Narduzzi. He's a state guy. No fly zone a while back. And get Notre Dame out of the fucking playoff because they have a cakewalk of a schedule usually. I give them credit this year. They have a decent schedule. Miami, A&M, and some ACC teams, but usually their schedule's not so great last year. But give me Pitt. They're a tough team. I'd love to see Pitt make some noise in the ACC this year.
Yeah, I mean, and Pitt said it best. They can lose this game and still go on to win the ACC as the last two. This isn't considered an ACC game, obviously, which has huge impacts. But overall, yeah, I mean, CJ Carr has really stepped up. It's a Michigan kid. I did hear a comment that because he's a freshman, he's 18. This dude's 20 years old, so he's old for a redshirt freshman. His birthday's in May.
CJ Carr?
He's not a... Yeah, CJ Carr, he's 20.
Shit.
His birthday's in May, so he's been 20 for a while now. 6 months, right?
Yeah.
So... He's nearly reaching it as a redshirt sophomore. And that's not to impact him. I just heard someone say, yeah, 2 18-year-olds battling it out. Because on the other side is a very interesting storyline. Eli Holstein was the returning incumbent starter. They paid him a bunch of money to return. He was there last year, led the team really well. And they replaced him with a, I believe, high 3 or low 4-star Mason Heitzel, who's really taken off as a true freshman. This kid is 18 years old. He has 1,500 yards passing, 64% completion, 12 touchdowns, the 5 INTs. So he is decently INT prone, but he has a really, really good storyline. And 4 out of the last 5 games, he's thrown for over 300 yards, including a 423-yard performance against NC State and a 303 performance against Stanford. So they're going to sling the ball. So you may be expecting like a defensive performance. I think that this could match up with a pretty high scoring, high impact, as Pittsburgh really struggles at times to stop the passing attack, but they're really, really good against the run. And you said it best. You got Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price in the backfield, two-headed monster. Expect C.J. Carr to have some time. I haven't seen a ton out of this Pittsburgh pass rush, but this is a really interesting game, how it all breaks down. Who do you have here? Two pretty historic programs, all things considered. I know that Pitt gets lost in the realm of being a historic program, but especially going back into the late 90s, 80s, this was a wagon of a team, and they just haven't been able to turn around. And former MSU guy Pat Narduzzi is their head guy. He's been there for 11 years.
It's crazy.
I believe he was overtook them to their first 10-win season since the 90s. They'd really, really struggled through the whole entire thing. Obviously, Kenny Pickett was there. That lifted them up for a time being. But I'm taking Notre Dame. I think this is the last important game on Notre Dame's schedule. This is the pinnacle, and I don't think that Pittsburgh, they're on a 5-game win streak after starting 2-2. I think they've just played really bad football teams, and they've seen the benefit of playing some of the weaker teams in their division. Since that, they played Stanford, NC State, Syracuse, Florida State, Boston College. Those are who their 5 wins are against. Their last loss was against Pitt or against Louisville. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really riding on that. I think Notre Dame comes in there, even on a shitty football field that's shared with the Steelers, so it's absolutely always torn up. But taking Notre Dame to absolutely wax them, and everyone's going to be like, wow, Notre Dame's so good. Because if Notre Dame loses this game, they have to be out of the playoff, and I think that they're just not going to allow that to happen. Notre Dame wins this game.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's got a tough stretch, KB, to end the year. They go Notre Dame at home, at Georgia Tech, and then home against Miami. So 3 games, all within the top 16, I think, to the CFP ranking. So, if Pitt wins out, they earned it. I know they lost they lost both their games within a touchdown to West Virginia and Louisville back-to-back weeks. But if you win this stretch of games, which is going to be hard to do for sure, KB, they earned it. And then, like you said, they can lose this game, and if they beat Georgia Tech and Miami, they're probably in the ACC championship game, and they could still make the spot in the playoffs. So, room for error. I just think 12.5 points at home, even though it's Notre Dame, they travel well, their fans are everywhere. I do think, personally, I know you disagree, I think they cover. I'm a little bit worried. I have Price as one of my running backs, and I saw on the fantasy app that Pitt's running defense is very good, like you said. So I'm a little
eighth in the nation, I believe it is.
It's so pretty solid. So I'm curious to see how they go, because they do lean heavily on that running game.
But is it just that good because everyone can throw against them, right? That's sometimes what you have to consider. Like Nebraska has a really, really good passing defense. Yeah, because everyone can run for like 250 yards against them. Like, who cares? All right, moving on to the next game. Are we going to my Michigan Wolverines against the Northwestern Wildcats?
Yes, KB.
We're looking at a Wrigley game here, so anyone that can attend, hopefully that's a fun experience for you. I'm taking Michigan to cover here. I believe the spread is 11.5. Michigan last year, coming out of their second bye, looked like an absolutely different team. And I think that's going to continue to happen in this instance. I think that you're going to see a renewed Bryce Underwood. I think the last few weeks, it was just slightly off, and the offense needed just more reps. And I think that they're going to be in a really good place. And when you think about the team like Northwestern, their strength is running the football, kind of punting it away. And Michigan's that same team, but just with way better athletes, way better players. They have the same kind of philosophy. So, if you invite Michigan to a fist fight, they're going to be like, yeah, let's go brass knuckles. Like, they fucking live for that shit. So I think that it'll probably be a close game, especially for a half. Turnovers are going to be super impactful like they usually are, but especially with this game, I expect few possessions, a lot of punts. And I just really think that Michigan can take the turn here, just like they did last year, of gaining momentum going into Ohio State game, especially with how young they are. Remember, I said 54% of snaps were played by a true freshman or a redshirt freshman against Purdue. That is on offense. That is crazy. Over half of their snaps are by a first or second year player. And so I just think that there's a lot of time, and the more time they have to play together and gel is only going to provide more opportunities for them to find the stride. And again, we were just inches off from Bryce Underwood throwing for like 300 yards. If he has two completions that get caught that were in fingertips, he has like an extra 80, 90 yards. So I think he's right there. He's just missing stuff. And I think this is the game where we see him and this offense really run away. And I think they can put up like 30, 35 points in this game.
Fair enough. The over-under is 40, 41. So that was something I saw, 40 and a half, 41 and a half, opened at 40 and a half. So, we'll see. I know both teams have decent defenses. Northwestern's been known, right, KB, to, like you said, they'll run the ball. They'll kind of play that field game where they kind of have you pinned down a lot. Preston Stone's their QB from SMU that got sat last year. He is turnover prone. He's thrown 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. I know Kamalafe is the main running back for Northwestern, but they also have Hamon and another guy, so they have a three-headed monster. And they have some decent receivers, too, a couple white kids, which is always fun to see at Northwestern. It fits the mold, right? But another fun fact, KB, this is a trophy game. And I think we talked about this before. Northwestern's kind of my second favorite team in the Big Ten. I got a lot of history from NCAA 14. They're my current team right now in our dynasty. I'm going to roll with those spread in the Cats as I can, and why the fuck not? Go Cats, fuck Michigan, forever and always. But I think it's a cool story. We've talked about it before off the podcast, KB, the George Jewett Trophy. Hopefully I say that right. The first African-American player, I believe, in the Big Ten to play, and then he played on both teams. He played at Michigan and then transferred to Northwestern or vice versa. So it's we're respecting and honoring a guy, which I think is really cool to see. I'm glad that these two universities agreed on this. And I love a trophy game, KB. Like the Penn State MSU game is a land grant trophy. That thing is ugly as fuck and it's big, but it's two schools. They got a bunch of land, obviously, during when that happened in a good old US of A. So that's another cool trophy game and a fun fact to share with everybody. If you want to talk about it more, KB, feel free. But I'm just going to roll with the Cats because they're my second favorite team for a long time now. Their defense, I think, is tough and can kind of do some things. Watch out for Saka. He's one of their good DNs. And I think Stone and the running game can do just enough to make it close. And honestly, for fun, KB, it's going to be a nice day. 61 degrees and sunny at Wrigley. So I'm kind of curious how the winds will play, but it's a nice day considering how cold it was in the Midwest Monday, Tuesday this week. But 61 and sunny at Wrigley, hopefully windy. Maybe that plays a factor to help out the Cats.
Yeah, and you said it best. I think trophy games, especially with how national this game has kind of gotten, this is actually a trophy game since 2021, so it's very, very new. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, like, when you start a tradition, right, it seems stupid. Just like I'm sure the Paul Bunyan, the little brown jug, until you just embrace it. And I think this is a trophy I'd really love for everyone to embrace. Like you said, it was the first African-American player for both universities
Michigan
and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And the Big Ten for conference too. So it's actually a pretty cool trophy. It's a pretty large trophy, all things considered, and it's him standing by himself, which I really appreciate. And I just really, really love that trophy. And I think that as we get older, I think you kind of try to find more respect for some of those things and the deep history that football has. And maybe it took too long to get this trophy game off the ground with how long these teams have been in the conference together, playing against each other. But I'm happy that it happened in 2021. So with that being said, I'm wishing best wishes to Northwestern. But yeah, I think Michigan is going to come out here, and I think this is going to be that one game where you're like, wow, Michigan's offense is really good, and then they'll probably lay an egg against Maryland next week, right before the Ohio State game. But I just feel like when Michigan comes off a bye, they usually have enough drawn up and have a good little wrinkle to their game plan.
Another cool fact, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. He played in the first game. They played in 1892. He played like pretty much everywhere for Michigan. And then in 1893, he transferred to Northwestern and then played for Northwestern. I wonder if he was on the winning side of both games. Yeah. I think he might have won. Oh, Jewett scored Northwestern's only touchdown in 1983, lost to Michigan. So he won at Michigan, lost with the Cats. First game was 10-8, but just cool to see, KB, a guy being an absolute dog over 100 years ago.
Insane. Part of our 1,000 wins. You bet your bottom dollar.
Jesus Christ. That was good. I'm going to go Cats, baby. Well, we'll jump to the next game, KB. It's my lovely team playing for the Land Grant Trophy. One of the ugliest, biggest trophies ever. You should look it up. It's disgusting. But these are two agricultural schools. They got a bunch of land from the country, the government, way back when. I'm not sure when it actually happened, but if you ever go to East Lansing, KB, you're surrounded by farmland. There's two golf courses. There's a lot going on around East Lansing, so it makes sense. And kind of cool and grateful for that because we're also growing the grass for the World Cup in 2026. Just a fun fact. We're just full of them today. But back to the game. Both teams are 3-6 and 0-6 in the Big Ten. The spread is 7.5 in favor of the Nittany Lions. Home dog for Michigan State, KB. 3:30 on CBS. I'm dead. The season's over. I would love to see my team come out well after a second bye week, but I really don't know. Then we get hit with sanctions. I'm really bought into hockey and basketball a little bit right now. That they got to win tonight. So I'm probably gonna roll with Penn State here because I have no faith in my team. But I would love to have some fight. If you win this game, a bowl game is highly possible with a tough game at Iowa and Maryland. But I don't really have faith.
Yeah, I mean, I think the state of the program can be summed up pretty easily when Alessio threw for 300 yards, looked dominant. They're like, oh, well, it's still a quarterback competition. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, it seems very lost. Seems like we don't know what we're doing at the driver's seat, and it just puts a really bad taste in my mouth for a program that, as long as they're not playing Michigan, I root for them to lose, obviously, but I'm happy for you guys if they win. And I can't root for them to beat Penn State. I think Penn State has figured a few things out. I think the fight against Indiana was a clear indication, and they've already transitioned, and they're fully behind their new QB. Obviously, that's injury related, but they moved on, and I think that's a really good indication. And I think the less Kotelnicki has without the head coach talking to him and controlling a lot what he does on the offense, it looked like a way better offensive strategy against Penn State, and I just see them exploiting the hell out of you guys with their team that's still really fighting. And I still think they have a lot to fight for because this is a true freshman that's getting a bunch of reps, so I think they're taking it very, very seriously. So I think Penn State's going to go in there, get their first Power Conference win, get their first win in the Big Ten, and beat MSU.
Yeah, looking forward to the tailgate. Alessio should be QB1, no problem. Kind of curious how healthy we've gotten because the injury report from the Indiana game on was insane. Maybe that's some guys taking the red shirt, they're looking to transfer. Obviously, that they can't do that until either the window opens or they hire the new guy. I'm assuming if they do that and fire Smith, it'll be the week of Thanksgiving that weekend if things do go the way that everybody's kind of talking. But looking forward to being in East Lansing as always for the tailgate. Hopefully the game is good. I hope it's a good game. I just feel like we beat ourselves, and this Penn State team has enough talent, even with their backup quarterback, who's highly rated. If we make mistakes and beat ourselves, they'll probably beat us by 2 touchdowns.
I will say I do miss when this game used to be the last weekend of the season.
Always after the game. It was always after yours.
Yeah, I really do miss that. The weather was always miserable.
The snow game in 21 was great. I was blitzed.
Yeah, I just think that full things considered, I think that's like the only other rival that you have in this conference, and obviously the Michigan MSU is always kind of on the hollow weekend or right around that time of year. And so I'd really like this game to be kind of your guys' rivalry game going forward. Like, hey, you have a land-grant trophy. There's a trophy, all things considered. Why not play them every year at the end of the year? Like Maryland being your last game of the year, right?
I believe, KB, that Penn State has 0 protected rivalries when we did the expansion with the 4 West Coast teams. And that is probably why.
Yeah, and I just think that's stupid. I'd love to see that get renewed. That like, hey, they have a rivalry trophy. They have a trophy that they both play for. Like, let's make that a thing where the last weekend of the year, like especially like you said, back to back. I think that's fun, and I think that's the way it should certainly be. So it sucks that this game is played this weekend, all things considered, and the state of how each program has fared this year. But at the end of the day, really hoping that MSU can figure some things out. And, if they win, I think that'd be a huge boon for the program. I hope the stadium's pretty full because this is the last home game of the year, and I know the state of the program's in a really bad shape right now, but you still want fans out there. You don't want a completely dead barren. Maybe if it's like 34-0 at half, you can stumble out of there, but hopefully it's decently full.
60 and sunny. So it's going to be a nice day. I don't know, KB.
Probably nice last weekend.
I do not know if people are going to show up. I mean, it was a good athletic weekend for the Michigan State as a whole because we're on a bye week. Hockey wins, basketball wins, women's basketball and women's soccer all win. And we don't have to worry about a shitty football team. So I think that's the state of the program as a whole, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's going to be the last nice weekend that for the rest of the year. So maybe some people want to go outside. Maybe the tickets are cheap, and they can watch maybe not an upset, but a really good football game.
Fingers crossed, KB. Thanks for having faith. Last game, it's the night game. I got Texas, KB. We're on the same page with this one, right? Texas, Georgia.
Yep.
Texas goes to Georgia, 7:30 on ABC. Current spread is 6.5 in favor of Georgia, the home team, which makes a lot of sense, KB. I want to throw it to you. Love to hear your thoughts from KB Stats to start on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good this Texas team is, like all things considered. And Arch has looked pretty remarkable the last couple weeks, and he looked pretty good in the Oklahoma game, but it's just very inconsistent now. And Georgia's defense hasn't played tremendous this year. We remember how Tennessee was running up and down the field on them, and there were some instances where teams got out to pretty good leads, and I just don't know what to think of either of these teams. Like, I know they're both skilled. I know they have a bunch of good players, but they're not necessarily playing the most clean, football right at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking Georgia because it's a proven product. I like their QB slightly more than I like Manning at this point into the season. But I do think that, like, all things considered, Texas's 2 losses, they're still right in the running at number 10. They have a 3-point win against Vanderbilt. They get a bye going into this game. So a lot of things are moving in their direction. But you got to look, after they had the huge rivalry win, outside of that game, they lost 29-21 to Florida. They beat Kentucky in overtime by 3. They beat Mississippi State by 7 in overtime. They beat Vanderbilt by 3. It's not like they're playing great football. They're barely escaping these teams, and I think Georgia has an opportunity at home to really just run them off the field. It is my opinion of how this game is going to go. I think this is going to be the game where Texas has not played well, had to have comebacks, kind of flailed their way through, and just because they're more talented and they have a bunch of better recruits than a lot of these guys, they can just win. And I think that ends here. I think you're going to see Manning regress to how he looked like for the majority of this year, and I think you're going to be looking at a huge Georgia victory.
Yeah, KB, I can totally see that. In the way you were talking, I think the biggest question mark on these teams is the quarterback. Stockton's okay. He's nothing special. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He only has 2. And then Arch is obviously young, has been struggling all season. I think you put a lot on his shoulders, being a younger guy with Sark. I know Sark's offenses can be probably complicated. And knowing all that, and then the pressure of the name, you got to give him a little bit of time. So I think that makes sense. And I just think I know Georgia's defense isn't it, but I can see them kind of getting in Archer's head, and this being a lower scoring game where Georgia wins like 28. You don't think so? I think you're disagreeing. Oh, no, never mind. I can just be like 28-17, KB. I'm not sure the over is 50.5. I can just see Georgia's defense kind of doing something with Arch and finding ways to move the ball up and down the field. They have decent running backs, and the receivers are always decent. And I think Kirby knows how to get the guys going. Whatever the fuck he says in the locker room for a home game, a big SEC game, I think he can get it done. I can't remember who they played last week. Let me look.
They played Mississippi State. They got down 7 points early and then ran it up on them. But remember, this is also Texas coming in with a bye. Georgia didn't have that privilege, but it is on the road too. So I think that favors Georgia overall. And yeah, I really like Stockton. He's a pretty accurate guy. I think his athleticism is a little bit slept on because he's like a southern white boy. True. He doesn't look like an athlete, but he can make some guys miss in space. He can elude some people. And when we've seen this Texas team, especially their defense, excel, it's been because of their pass rush and their line. And they're a really good run defense, but I don't know, all things considered, if I'm really shook, and I think Georgia's going to just outlast them and maybe even run them off the field. This is by far the most intense road environment they're going to have played since Florida, and before that, the most intense road environment they played since Ohio State. They played Mississippi State and Kentucky. That were their 2 other road games. They haven't fared well playing on the road, and this is going to be like at the level of Florida, right? Because this is a top 10 matchup, on the road. So I think this is going to be a really hyped game, and I think this is a game that Arch looks overwhelmed again. It would be my prediction.
Yeah, I would agree, KB. I'm going to go with the Dogs as well. I just think that environment in between the hedges, it matters. And like you said, Texas has not traveled well. I do got to say, Georgia's schedule as a whole, KB, is very interesting. They go 2 non-conference games, all their SEC games in a row, Charlotte, and then Georgia Tech. Kind of like that. being done with conference play with 2 weeks ago seems like a privilege that I don't see a lot. Obviously, that Georgia Tech game could have big implications for both teams, maybe ranking-wise in the playoff. If obviously it doesn't impact them going to any championship game for their conference, but still could have implications. And I think that's a fun rival game to end the year. And I just had to make a note of this, KB, because I haven't seen a lot of conference. I haven't seen a lot of schedules in general having 2 weeks left in the season without a conference game.
Yeah, it is really interesting, and obviously you have the FCS game, or not FCS, it's Charlotte, but may as well be. But then obviously you have a tough game at the end of the season with Georgia Tech, so this has huge implications for them because if Georgia Tech wins that game, they're most likely in. And then what you also got to realize is that they've played 5 consecutive games. They're going to play 5 consecutive games down the stretch. They had 2 byes within their first 7 weeks of the season, which is also really interesting as they've had a long stretch here down the road where they had to go to Florida, to Mississippi State, and they got to go to, I believe the Georgia Tech game is a neutral site because they're playing it in the Superdome. So that one is neutral site as well. So we just want to make sure that, and with their game early on in the year. So I believe they played 1, 2, 3 road games this year, which is really interesting.
That's it?
Florida's neutral site.
Oh, yeah, it's the cocktail party in Jacksonville. You're right. That's kind of crazy. They have a nice schedule.
two neutral site games, 3 road games, and then 7 home games.
I wish. That's insane. That's all I got, KB. We're both going with the dogs in this one. Any other thoughts around the country on CFP rankings? If you don't, that's fine, but I thought I'd throw it to you one more time. I know there's the Oklahoma game that's relatively big. I know we're not going to break that down, but any other thoughts or opinions on games or rankings this week?
Yeah, outside of that one, a sneaky game is the USC-Iowa game. Obviously, Iowa took Indiana down to the stretch, and they have another game where they have to travel out to Southern California to play USC. USC is in a great position to win this game, and then they have Oregon and then I believe UCLA the last 2 weeks of the season. So there's still a lot of time left, but overall, really excited about everything going on with this team. And I'm excited to watch my football team again. It feels so weird having a week off of it. Obviously, it's happy being home traveling, but really, really excited. With all that being said, I appreciate everyone for listening. There's a great weekend for college football again as we get down to this last home stretch. Obviously, next week is usually the down week because SEC is not playing as many hype games, but there's still some nice matchups across the country we'll be able to preview. With all that being said, I appreciate you guys as always. Go Blue.
Yeah, you said it great, KB. Looking forward to being in East Lansing one more time. Tailgate season is something I truly, dearly love and look forward to every year. So that'll be a great way to end the year. Hopefully we get a win one more time. But I will be in East Lansing throughout the wintertime watching college hockey because that's my second love right now since we're a good program, which is always fun. But thank you guys as always. TikTok's been popping off. Make sure you like and comment, share, subscribe, talk to your grandma, second, third cousin, who fucking cares and knows. But we'd love to get your feedback. Bowl Mania is around the corner. I'm 2-0, I believe. And maybe we can throw some fans in there too with you guys. Maybe we'll throw $5 in for everybody in the winner. We'll get some cash. But I know KB and I will have a little competition as well. Just keep that on the radar. Forever and always for me, go green.